Welcome to a new episode of Meditando.com. Today I have the pleasure of talking and meditating with a yogi, writer, scholar, and spiritual teacher, devotee of Bhagavan. He is the General Secretary of the International Vedanta Society. He also gives initiation to spiritual aspirants authorized by his master Bhagavan. He has given lectures at many renowned spiritual organizations and universities like the New York University, Suffolk University in Boston, La Laguna University in Spain, and Tilburg University in Holland, as well as Unitarian churches around the USA. He has also introduced courses on Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita in various universities across India. He is based in Varanasi, India. Welcome to the show, Swami Prabhudananda Puri.
Thank you. Thank you, and namaste to you, and namaste to everybody from India.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I really appreciate this time with you. We always like to start the interview with an icebreaker question, sometimes tricky question, is how did yoga or spirituality, if you want, appear in your life?
Okay. Yeah, this is a very important question. Actually, it all happened with my master Bhagavan. He was a neighbor, and I was a child at that time. I used to study in the school, and I didn't know that he was such a great master, just living one house apart, just almost next door. So my parents used to visit him, but when my parents visited him, I could see that there is a change in my father and my mother. Mostly, my mother, which was very evident to me, and which did a lot of, it affected me a lot because, as you know that we are very close to our mother. But when my mother went to Bhagavan and she started her spiritual life, I could see that she was becoming dispassionate. She was becoming very quiet, calm. She did not scream at me. She did not scold me. So this is how, we in India grow up. We get scolding from our mother. They beat us. They interfere in each and every thing that you do apart from your studies. So I could see that my mother was completely indifferent to me at one point, and it really, hurt me. So one day I went to my master, and at that time he was not my master. I just used to call him uncle. So I asked him, "What are you doing here? Oh, my mother is completely changed." So then he said that we are searching for truth. So I asked, "What is truth? Is there anything called truth?" He said, "Yes, there is truth, and the truth is, whatever you say, if you say the right thing." If you say the thing that is that really is, even in the practical world that you study, you say that I'm studying, that is heard the actual, meaning of what truth is. Then I told him that I cannot speak the truth, and I just came back to my house. But when I came back to my house, I started to practice not speaking lies. Whenever we used to go to play, at that time we used to tell my mother that I'm going to study, but I used to go to the field to play. So then I stopped saying false things. I could not speak the truth, but I just stopped saying false things, and that is how I was continuing. One day in the evening when I was studying, I was feeling very sad. My mind was not in my study. I was really distracted. I went outside my house and I found my master, meditating outside his house, and he was meditating, and somebody was sitting in his feet, and they were both meditating. It was nighttime. It was dark. And the scene that I saw, that he was meditating and somebody was meditating at his feet, that really, affected me so much that I just ran to him. So when I went to his house and he saw me standing there, he told me, "Why did you come today? You are not supposed to come. That day you said that you cannot speak the truth." Then I said that, I cannot speak the truth. It's true. But I am trying to I am practicing to speaking the, in speaking the truth. And then I saw him so excited, he just jumped out of his seat. He came to me, he hugged me, and he was like so much happy. It gave me this feeling that, this speaking the truth was so important. And I felt that I have just stood fast in my board exam. That is the feeling that I got. If you stand, if you become, you scored the highest marks, then you get this kind of appreciation, this kind of behavior from people. And I thought that I am like that, and that really that really affected me. That really influenced me so much that I started to have a very subtle, like a very subtle bond, like subtle love for him, a very subtle relationship had developed that day, but it was very subtle. Then again, what happened was, in our neighborhood there was one person who was suffering from cancer. So my mother asked me to bring go to the hospital and bring a ambulance so that we can carry that person to the hospital. So when I brought that ambulance, Bhagwan also went with us to the hospital. And then the doctor said that, he's not going to survive. So you should take him back to your house so that he can just live with his family. And he's not going to survive, for 15 days. So just let him live the way he wants to live. So we came back. And then Bhagwan, invited me to have tea with him in his house. So when we went to his house, we were just discussing what would happen if this man, dies in the night. Because at those times, things were not so fast, things were not so easy. If you need some medical help, you have to go to the hospital, bring it. It was not, there was no telephone, there was nothing. So uh, when I was saying these things, that in the night, if something happens, what will happen? Then Bhagwan said that, he is not going to die. He is not. That was really weird to hear, because what is the relationship between this man's dying and me taking in, us taking him to the hospital, and in the hospital he's going to die. He will not die in this house. It was very, like very disappointing to hear this. Then I asked him, what is the relationship between you're going to the hospital, you're going to the office, and him, and he is dying in the hospital. Why cannot he die here in his house? Then he said that, I have realized the truth, and when, wherever I stay, death cannot enter. These words were, these were words, like, that echoed in my ears so much. I could not believe these words, because I have never heard these words from anybody. I didn't have any idea that, somebody can say these things, that if you stay, a person, there might be some person around whom death cannot enter. This is something which is completely unimaginable. So I was very, like, taken aback, completely awestruck, but I didn't speak about this conversation of ours to anybody. Sometimes I had this, temptation of just talking to somebody and saying that this person said this, but I stopped myself, and I had this, wait and watch. Let me see what happens. So one day, this man really died, but at that time I was not in my house. I was somewhere else, and when I came back and I saw that the person died, the first question that I asked my mother was, uh, "Where did this man die?" My mother said he died in the hospital. And then I asked, where was this uncle? I was, at that time uh, I used to address Bhagwan to be uncle. I asked, where was this uncle? And then my mother said that he was in his office and nobody was there, and we were so helpless. We had to take this and that. My mother started to describe all this, but that was enough for me. I was completely, absorbed in admiration for Bhagwan, that I know somebody who, who is true to his words. He had said very, frankly and very truthfully that, wherever I stay, death cannot enter. And that is what it happened. So then, that was the second time that I was really drawn to him, attracted to him, but still I resisted myself. I did not start to visit him. I just, at that time, I just kept it to myself. And then the third instant happened when he came to our house and he told me to give a lecture on Buddha, because the birth anniversary of Buddha is celebrated in India as Buddha Purnima. Everybody in India, we celebrate Buddha's birth. So he said that you come to my house, we will have a celebration, and you talk about Buddha in English. So I studied something about Buddha, and I went there and I gave a lecture on Buddha. And just after my lecture, Bhagavan started to speak. That was the first time, that that was the first time that I was listening to this, spiritual talk, spiritual discourse. And the way he was expressing Buddha, the way he was, saying, he was describing Buddha's divinity, Buddha's godhood, Buddha's heart, this overwhelming heart that he had, for everybody. The way he was expressing that, I was very, very impressed, and I was thinking, what did Buddha do that he is considered to be God? He is actually a human being. So how is it possible that somebody becomes God? And after that lecture of his, I went to him and I said that, Uncle, I'm really very impressed by the way you had talked about Buddha, and I think that my friends in the school, they should listen to what you have said. So can I bring my friends one day to you so that you can also speak to them about the thing that you have just said now? So then he said that, okay, you bring your friends, and I'm going to talk about Swami Vivekananda. Perhaps you know about Swami Vivekananda. He was one of the greatest monks that India has ever produced. That monk who had traveled to the West, and whatever we see today, the growing interest of Hindu Dharma, or Eastern philosophy, or yoga, or Vedanta, whatever interest today the West has, it was actually because of the works of Swami Vivekananda. So he said that you bring your friends, and I'm going to speak about Swami Vivekananda. And then I went to him, and I was a constant visitor. And then within some days, I became his devotee, and my spiritual life started. But before that, also another incident I forgot. This was the last one that I said. But before this, there was another one, that one day my mother sent, in India we chew pan, it's a leaf, pan leaf with betel fruits. So it's a very customary thing. People chew it, pan. It makes your mouth red. So one day my mother gave a pan and told me to go and give it to Bhagavan. When I went to his house, I saw one of his devotees sitting outside his house. So I asked him, where is Bhagavan? Where is uncle? So he told me, keep quiet, come, sit here. I said that, I bought pan for him, you just give it to him and I'm going. But he told me, wait, you don't go. When he comes out, you give this pan to him. So then I asked him, where is he? Then he said that he is in Samadhi. Now, this word Samadhi, that day I heard this word for the first time in my life, that there is something called Samadhi. I thought that this Samadhi means some kind of, puja, some kind of ritual, or some kind of meditation. So I said, okay, whenever he comes out, you just give this pan to him, and I'm leaving. He said, no, you sit down. When he comes here, then you give it to him. Now, Samadhi is the highest state. Samadhi is a state called super consciousness. Samadhi is a state where one becomes one with the self, or consciousness. This is the highest state. So it is, it is considered that when a person has this kind of states, so, the people who are surrounded, they're around him, these people should also be very, very spiritual, or they cannot remain around him. So that day when Bhagavan had this samadhi, that samadhi was very deep samadhi, very deep. So, hello, hello.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah. You hear me?
I think there is, yeah, I think there is. So that day, that samadhi was very deep. So, I was not supposed to be there because, at that time, spiritual person should be there. He's supposed to be there. I am not supposed to be there. But when he came out of his house, the first person he saw was me. He didn't even see the next person who was already sitting there. He saw me for the first time. And while he saw me for the first time, he just like, he was very surprised. And he said, "Why are you here? How can you be here? This is, this should not be the place where you should be now." And he called me, come here, come here. And then again, he embraced me. And he told that man that, you write it in your diary that this boy one day is going to become a very, very high, very, very high spiritual person. I did not understand anything, but when he was, when he was hugging me, when I was in the state of this, hugging with him, I felt some very, very deep, peace and love, such a love which I've never felt before. And a very, like subtle but very deep connection with him. Some a connection which was like, he's my own, he is very own. I know him for a very long time. This kind of connection. And then, I came back to my house, and though this connection was there and I felt this, but I did not disclose it to anybody and I did not think about it too much. But when I heard about Buddha, at that time I approached him and I said that I want to hear it more. And not only me, everybody of my age should listen to what he had said about Buddha. And that was the start. That was the start. I gathered all my friends from the school and from the neighborhood, and we started to attend his classes. So the first class, the second class, and the third class which I had with him, on the third class I decided that I'm going to become a monk and I'm going to serve this Vedanta the way Bhagavan is serving. So that is the